destination is Bolivia. Dense jungles, freezing mountains, and salt flats. If you don't watch your back, you won't leave it alive.
For mere mortals, that would be a chilling warning, but not to you. You're a hard-nosed military veteran. It's only early into 2017, but Ubisoft have already seized the opportunity to release 2 closed betas to us, with the For Honor, which I covered previously in the closed alpha, and I'll be covering soon in the open beta this week on Xbox One, PS4 and the PC. But here I look at another closed beta, and that is Ghost Recon's Wildlands, a game that has its own heritage. Now the game is powered by Anvil Next, probably the proprietary engine that Ubisoft are now going to push forward for many of their titles. This is obviously the one that powers things like Rainbow Six Siege and obviously the Assassin's Creed titles. But there's more to it than that. Ubisoft have a long experience of mixing and using their team's portfolio and assets across multiple platforms, and their engines are no different. And this looks to have taken the foliage system from the Far Cry engine, the Dunia engine, and used it here, which is not a first. They did a similar technique with Assassin's Creed 2 and 3. And this certainly has similarities with that system. You can see the tree system from helicopters moving and the way the drawing in the frustum works. And most likely, I believe it's also using a HRAA type implementation for anti-aliasing. There's definitely a temporal element in there. And on the PS4 Pro version here, unfortunately, the only version I was able to get time with in the closed beta due to the PSN system really playing up at the weekend this was out, and I downloaded on my Pro, but it did not show me as actually having it on my other account, so I couldn't re-download it on the PS4, and I only had one beta code to use. So unfortunately this is a Pro coverage only. So I'll go into the detail on what the Pro delivers. First and foremost, it's a 30 FPS title, not a surprise and not a shock, and that's the same here on the Pro, so this means it's capped at 30. Now I will cover the performance. You'll see a long run of well over 20 minutes of footage I captured and tested here, including online, and bar a couple of, I'm talking like 3 spikes and 1 dip, it does not falter from that 30 FPS or 30 Hz target at all. This is beautifully smooth and locked, just like the Far Cry titles. Like I say, I do feel as if it's taken quite a lot from that engine, and its huge Bolivian open world is probably the biggest that Ubisoft have ever created, and that's by their own words. But it does feel very vast and very expansive. Now it does have a weather system and a time and day system, but this beta doesn't seem to change. It's locked down, so there's far more to come once we get access to the final game, which will be sometime in late February, early March, and I'll be covering that in depth across multiple platforms. Now aside the performance, which like I say you can see video playing out here, it is very solid. Visually, again, it's a good looking game, but in this day and age, good looking games are quite commonplace now, so this title no longer really stands out. It's got quite a clean look, very PC-like in its movement. Some of the binary switches on animation can be seen when you hug areas on walls into cover, and the AI is still not really a step up, quite stupid at times, running out into open spaces, seeing you but taking far too long to react. With an armed military at this area should be a little bit quicker in whipping out their guns and a little bit more trigger happy, I would assume, than what they appear to be in this beta. But that doesn't mean it isn't fun. It certainly brings back that military feeling of Ghost Recon, even though you've now got a huge playground to explore this and multiple methods in which to do that. You can obviously go to an area, scope it out with your drone to see where people are, tag them, and then inform your teammates. So it certainly hasn't strayed away from the Ghost Recon and Future Soldier that we remember from years gone by. Now, although this is no longer powered by the Yeti engine that powered the Advanced Warfighter and Future Soldier titles, it does share similar traits, and I feel some of that has been migrated over to this that run the engine here, and that makes perfect sense. Therefore, you're left with a game that feels like Ghost Recon, but also a mixture of Rainbow Six, the look of Far Cry and Far Cry Primal, and in addition to that, Splinter Cell titles. And this isn't a bad thing. The espionage action feels solid, and it at least gives you the feeling like you are on a secret mission, and the open options that you can choose to attack each mission as you wish.
Hostile down.
Will certainly add longevity to the title, which will only be bolstered further by the obvious online multiplayer-centric core of the game. This will allow you to play online with your friends or just random people, which should certainly pass the time much better than just a single-player romp it will also ship with. The dynamic weather system and time of day will certainly help increase the visual palette and quality as you play the game. Along with mood, I'm sure they're going to use that rain and lighting system to improve the visual atmosphere as you play. Even if the cutscenes themselves and the character models are a little lacking in this beta, I don't expect those to improve at all beyond what we can see here. This is only a month or so from release. and aspects like this will be final and locked down. Now, the gameplay does shy away from the standard Ubisoft formula of taking over an area, sticking a flag in the ground, or climbing up high and pretending to be an eagle. So I hope they shy away from this and allow you to explore and enjoy this world and do what you want, when you want, and how you want. But I feel it will live and die by its online multiplayer aspect and how well they integrate that into the gameplay, allowing you to play with multiple people and do multiple things online without the integration issues that other titles have suffered from. Certainly the system they used in The Division, which is a different engine, but this works well by allowing you to just jump straight into the area. Here you join online lobbies, pick the person or people you want to play with, and then move into the single player games playing online. The functionality and the connectivity was very quick and rapid in this beta, and the performance was identical to the single player aspect, so there's no issues there at all. Now, moving into the visual quality of the title, I believe this is a 1080p title on the PS4. I can't vouch for that just yet, like I say, but here on the PS4 Pro I can vouch for the resolution, and downsampling is present before you ask. So the game, like I say, is most likely 1080p, and that is borne out by the fact that this on the Pro is running at 2560 by 1440, and that is downsampled on the screen for the PS4 Pro owners that only have a 1080p display. The game itself, as you can see, has a vast draw distance, and this is no matter whether you're standing on a mountainside or flying a helicopter. Everything seems to load in quite smoothly, and even though you've got screen space ambient occlusion, which does draw in at the edge of the screen, which you can see within the frustum, and again, as you're driving down mountainsides, you can see the shadow maps drawing in pretty close to your view. But overall, it's a very rich looking world, with popping not really an issue in this beta so far, and the game is very rich and dense no matter where you go and how you drive. And all of this doesn't come at the expense of performance, as you've already seen. It is a locked 30 FPS at this 1440p resolution, so there's no issues with performance at all in this beta. Therefore, there'll be none at all, I'm sure, in the final game, unless of course all the weather effects and some of the bombastic sections of the title put more pressure on the game. There's a few issues, but it is a beta, so therefore I'm not going to dwell too long on this, but some of the collision in the game, when you hit certain fences, you either clip straight through it with no collision at all, or you can't get through a fence, whereas before you broke through a big wooden oak beam. So it doesn't really hold consistent physics with some of the destruction, but again, this is a beta, so maybe some of this will be patched out in the final game. And like I say, AI is pretty poor. If you're playing online with friends and this is the quality of the AI and the actual difficulty doesn't ramp up that quality, it may be a little easy playing this game because they don't feel that intelligent once you play so far in the missions that are available here. But again, there's other uses of visual quality that are quite nice. You've got good use of bloom and tone mapping, and it doesn't really go OTT on the actual post-processing effects. Like I say, it does have a temporal anti-aliasing solution, and I'm leaning towards the HRAA solution that Far Cry used, but I haven't spent a great time analysing this. It does have a moderately low sample rate motion blur for radial camera as you fly or ride, but there's no per object motion blur. Cube maps are used rather than screen space reflections, and there is some pre-baked global illumination passes on the lighting, which does look good. But like I say, it's a very nice and crisp looking game, but it doesn't really look post-process heavy. Animation isn't a particularly strong point of the game, but this is an online title, so this makes sense because the rigs are going to carry over across all your designs, which you can choose your character from the main menu. Again, all very similar to how The Division works, and this will be Ubisoft's new platform and process behind their online multiplayer titles. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it feels like Ghost Recon modernised in the new age, complete with a de rigueur open world to play around in. I'm looking forward to the game actually diversifying itself with its gameplay style and play options online, and that dynamic weather system to impress and analyse once I get my hands on the full game. Anyway, that's it for a PS4 Pro analysis. I'll be back soon with more information on this and other titles. And of course, if you enjoyed it and want to support me and the channel, then please subscribe and share where appropriate. Like the video if you did, and dislike if you didn't. Leave all your thoughts and feedback below, and I'll catch you very soon on the next one.